Hi there and welcome to episode 17 of the OGV Media Group Let's Talk Transition series of podcasts. I'm Murray Mulhewis, the founder of Anet Consulting, and I'm delighted to have with me today David Clark and Dominic McCann from Vysus and Siccar. Hey guys, thanks for joining the show.
Hi. Thank you very much for having us.
Can you introduce yourselves and your organisations, please?
So I'm David Clark. I'm the CEO of Vysus Group. We're a business that has a global footprint. We're an energy consultancy, both technical and regulatory. We were created back in November 2020 as a carve-out from Lloyd's Register. So we're a relatively new name, but we're a global footprint and decades of history with working with clients around the world.
Great. And Dominic?
Dom McCann, Chief Executive of Siccar. We're a scale-up technology company based out of Edinburgh with footprints in London and various other geographies that our clients reside in. We're about 7 or 8 years in business and launching a platform around secure data sharing, and it's great to be here.
Brilliant. It's great to have you. And tell me, why have your companies come together today?
So in our business, we've been working with clients over many years in helping customers assess their emissions and provide assurance certificates on those emission metrics. That process has been very paper-driven for many, many years. And our team saw a clear opportunity to digitalize, automate that process, and create a solution that would allow our customers to acquire information on a continuous basis, but ideally to be able to do that in a secure and managed process. We were really delighted and excited to meet with the Siccar team, and when we started to understand their capability and the underlying technology they could provide, there was a fantastic fit between that requirement and the customer need. Maybe Dom can give a bit more detail on that.
Yeah, that'd be great. Dom, tell us a little bit about this underlying technology.
Yeah, so we are in the technology business, and for the past few years we've been pioneering essentially a new level of security and how people can share information with each other. We've seen explosion in how data is stored and how networks are trying to keep up with that exponential increase in consumption generated of data. And we talk about the 3 Vs, the variety, the volume, and the velocity of data, now streaming through multiple mobile devices, etc. So our foundation platforms pioneered to be able to handle these massive volumes of really what this challenge is starting to emerge around the sharing of this data. Vysus and the amazing long-standing relationships they have is really the perfect fit for where we'd like our technology to start being utilised as one of the significant partnerships and use cases. So the coming together of the two organisations has been such a great fit for a really good use case for our tech and everything that we're now starting to bring to the Vysus customers.
So this Databox technology, it's really enabling carbon scoring, right?
Yes, that, fundamentally what it allows us to do. So typically our customers have a requirement to understand and measure their carbon metrics. So what tonnage of CO2 are they producing from all of the activities, both in-house, through the services that they procure, the energy that they use, as well as the other services related to their offering. So what our team provide is a way to go in and look at detail at how they actually calculate those metrics. So how they take, whether it's the fuel consumption, they look at models of process equipment, on the emissions, on the efficiencies. So we're able to take all of the input metrics and then calculate in a really robust, engineered fashion what is the actual tonnage of carbon equivalent that those processes or systems use. So that process is, as I said, historically had been quite paper-driven. What we're now able to do is, using the Siccar technology, is to then plug into our customers' systems to then acquire and process that data. And that's where the Databox platform provides a holistic solution for easy access to that data set.
Great, and I'm intrigued by this. How live is the data and is it auditable?
And that depends very much on what sort of data you want to use. So that's really unlimited. The use cases and how we've designed the system is to deal with any type of data, whether it's SCADA systems or whether it's HR data, finance data. And it can be live, absolutely. So Really, as David says, the verification and validation of that trusted information between organisations. Some of the benefits we're seeing of the platform is then the access and the privileges around that system. How can it flow securely through different organisations, processes and systems with the right rights and permissions to view and report on that data as well. So from validation right through to the process of that information is really important.
Can you tell me a little bit about the sort of adoption process for this for a company considering Databox? You know, how does that journey typically look?
So typically that would start with an engagement with ourselves and defining the scope, defining the problem. So what is the facility, what level of their business, whether that's a plant, an entity, a country, or whatever scale they want to be able to assess and understand their emissions output. So that will be step one. We'll work with the customer, define that. We'll then, our team will then go in and look at the systems, the processes, the inputs, energy, fuel, air miles flown, whatever that may be, to bring that together. We'll then build the models and verify the engineering models to convert all of that data into an output. At that point, we then bring that solution and that requirement with the Siccar team, who can then configure the Databox platform to allow that data to be ingested, and then for the dashboards to be created to allow the customers, wherever they may be, to easily access that information. Maybe Dom can give more insight into that.
Absolutely, and the exciting thing that we're seeing from our customers so far, and for us it really is, it's about ease of adoption and scalability. The fact that you can then reuse those use cases or tech across organisation cost efficiently and at scale. The tech industries have been very slow in delivering, in my view, in large, clunky applications that have often run into high levels of cost and over time. So when we set out to build this technology, we made sure it was very light in its architecture, but very secure. So how it's deployed within various enterprise-grade architectures is quite exciting, and a different way of approaching things. So within that, really for us, it's about time to value. Can a customer expect to see results and reports and new information and a different culture of collaboration between their suppliers within a matter of weeks? Absolutely. That's why we set out to build the technology in this way.
And what can you tell me about the use cases that you've achieved already?
So we've been working with a number of pilot clients to be able to show that the system and the solution can be adopted easily. So where we've had existing relationships, or indeed in customers where they're new to us, we've gone in to define a scope requirement, a facility, build the models, and then demonstrated just how efficiently and easy it is to actually adopt and place that onto the Databox platform.
And these clients, I guess, are you targeting the energy industry itself, or is it any industrial client, or what's your ideal client look like?
Oh, well, ultimately everybody's a client, but clearly we are tackling our existing customer base, which is in the Vysus world is predominantly in the energy sector, and that's right the way through the energy markets, be that oil and gas, be that nuclear, be that renewables, as well as the complex industrial processes. So our customers who are petrochemicals, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing processes where they have significant energy consumption and emissions generation.
Great. And how does the energy transition benefit from this digitalization?
Well, I think as we see, the measures of ESG metrics are going to be increasingly required by all sorts of stakeholders and companies. They will need to be able to understand where they are today, to get a clear benchmark, and then be able to tackle how can they significantly reduce their carbon output. So we need to help them on that journey in getting the baseline, then really tackling the different ways of reducing their output.
So tell me, why, in your experience, are companies really interested in this capability?
Well, as we've seen around the world, shareholders and stakeholders, whether that's in the public markets or indeed the private markets are being much more focused on how their investments are being spent and the impact that will have in terms of climate and therefore the ESG metrics and the emissions that the companies that they invest in produce. We've seen huge initiatives of companies setting up, trying to really focus on green or low carbon industries and technologies. So for many of our existing customers, they're grappling with how do they benchmark themselves? How do they understand where their current emission levels are? And critically, how can they make progress? How can they significantly decarbonize their businesses from, factory door to customer delivery? So it is really critical for them to be able to access capital, as well as to be able to position themselves in the market with their suppliers and with their customers.
And it sounds like this is going to be quite a lot of workload for each company just dealing with the reporting.
Absolutely, and that's where we absolutely see the benefit of deploying the Databox solution, because it allows for the automation and the managed gathering of data and the creation of the insight from that in a very efficient way. So today, many companies have lots of people involved at lots of stages across lots of parts of the business trying to gather up and collate information. With the Databox solution, that process is fundamentally automated, and the significant technology that the Siccar team provide, the underlying assurance capability there, means that all of that data is fully auditable and verifiable, and we can always go back and show exactly where that's come from.
And does this apply to companies of all sizes, or are there sort of cut-offs where there are more or less required reporting?
Clearly, the big PLCs, the major companies, are tackling this problem to begin with, but actually the metrics or the criteria will steadily move down in scale. And very quickly, we're getting to SME level organizations where they're required to report. Our business, Vysus Group, we are signed up to the UN Compact, and with that is a requirement for ourselves to report on our ESG metrics. And we're going to see that very much as a license to operate for many companies right across all industrial sectors.
Great, so you're using Databox in your own company?
We are in the throes of deploying it, yes.
Brilliant, first-hand knowledge. And tell me, Dom, where did the technology come from?
Well, we as I said, we're sort of 7 or 8 years in innovating and bringing the next level of data and information security. So really, we've seen a huge amount of funding and innovation go into how we store the data, and we heard terms like big data come around. I don't know what happened to that, but it seemed to disappear quite quickly. But for us, the quality of what was in those data lakes and all this cloud technology now that's starting to be evaluated, and whether it is the right offerings for businesses exchanging critical information, has really presented a problem that do we trust what's in there? And can we then move outside the perimeters of our organisation? So we were very much focused on two things: the provenance of that information, and is it right? Can we trust it? Then, how do we move it between various different legacy technologies that might be a firewall within an organisation? Cybersecurity is trillions of pounds have been piled into trying to combat this. So we're based on distributed ledger technology. And I think we saw in the past the really exciting thing, certainly around crypto, was the ability for people to transact with each other in a secure way without an entity, and that has probably been the most highest level of secure adoption we've seen. So we took the best principles of that type of technology, and we've built an enterprise solution around that, which really makes it enables any sort of customer, whatever you mentioned size, whether it's a major corporate or whether it's a local council, to be able to deploy that into their enterprise architecture. Some of the biggest challenges of adopting innovative technologies is that it's not enterprise ready, and you've got to rely on open source communities, or you've got to pay very expensive developers. We have made the Siccar platform and the resulting Databox application enterprise ready, so it's plug and play into existing security parameters. So one thing we didn't talk about really was what sort of customers would want to adopt this or why. This is really about working together. So we've seen the huge challenge with Scope 3, and we are addicted as a world to email and spreadsheets. That's just how we do it, and it's not good enough because we've kind of seen that that's inefficient and leads to a huge amount of cost. So the ability to then collaborate in a trusted way with a supplier or a partner or your healthcare provider or your mortgage provider, whatever it might be, is the future of how data should be. It's a completely different way of looking at things. It's not, we often say, share, don't send. That's a bit one of our mottos in Siccar as a company. It's a very different way of moving information elegantly around organizations.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's lots of processes I would phrase as being mandrolic. Mm-hmm. So it's people powered and it's incredibly inefficient. And to Dom's point, the ability to share information in a secure way that you know where it's coming from, you know exactly when it was produced, and it gives you the insight straight away. It saves so much effort, both in the acquisition and the gathering of the data, the processing of it, but just getting the insight. Leadership, or whether that's at an operational level, whether it's the finance team, whether it's the CFO or the CEO, or indeed the shareholders and the board of a company, are able just to look at meaningful, insightful data in a quick and easy way. And that's why we were so excited about the partnership with Siccar, because the technology is incredibly flexible. It's light, as Dom has said. It's light touch to deploy, but it gives such great insight to all the stakeholders within an organization.
It sounds to me like potentially Databox could be managing some really quite sensitive information. How do you ensure security?
In the security of the data. So we use the best of what you would call encryption technology to be able to do that for data. So classically that level of security, and one of our founders and CTO would call it military grade security. So this thing has always been built to the highest possible level it could be, and will be designed to be the next generation of what the next 2, 5, 10 years need in data security. Because as we've seen with AI and quantum computing and these sorts of concepts that people are either embracing or are terrified of, you seem to be one or other at the moment. I'm somewhere in the middle. It's an opportunity, but it's a huge threat as to how the provenance of the AI and what it's actually telling us and helping us, whether that's an operation or a building of a vehicle or an automated shipping channel, is dependent on the reliance of the data and the provenance of it. So, yeah, we've used the best of breed of encryption technologies to adapt that to be able to handle massive volumes of data.
So we've mentioned, capturing a company's carbon footprint and automating the reporting. That's great. Now, of course, on the show, we're interested in the energy transition. And I guess specifically thinking about the oil and gas industry, we see those companies moving increasingly towards hydrogen production, carbon capture and storage, and even the adoption of floating offshore wind to electrify, offshore production to reduce the carbon footprint. Your solution must have a role to play in supporting that, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're right. The world is moving from. We went from wood to coal to oil to a few things. The next transition is going to be very complicated. There is no one molecule, there is no one mechanism for generating electrons. There are multiple solutions that will and are evolving and will be deployed. Critically, we need to be able to demonstrate whatever that energy system, or whether it's the production, the storage, the distribution, and ultimately the consumption, we need to understand what the carbon footprint is right away through that value chain. So therefore, being able to measure accurately and track the CO2 emissions or the equivalent carbon production is going to be critical in all of those areas. And that's also, one of those facts is being able to demonstrate to stakeholders, to shareholders, and critically to the general public, that we are efficient, whatever that system is, that there is a clear measure on comparison of what's the carbon footprint for this versus the carbon footprint for this energy solution or this technology, because they will evolve. So, we see an application for this technology and requirement right across the energy markets, and that plays into the transition and the emerging technologies, whether it's hydrogen, ammonia, or CCUS, or indeed ultimately to clean energy systems. Let's not forget, wind and solar systems have an enormous carbon footprint of their own just getting built and deployed. So we've really got to start looking right the way through the supply chain to understand what is the carbon cost of doing anything. So for companies right the way through that value chain, whether you're an OEM manufacturing a widget or a piece of kit, to a service company deploying and installing or maintaining, you need to be able to understand what is your carbon footprint and how can you reduce that at all levels.
And how do you look at a carbon footprint? What's involved in assessing?
When we go into a company, we look at their systems and processes, and that will go down to the level of their major systems, whether that's a generating unit, whether it's a piece of processing technology. We'll look at the energy consumption that's coming in, whether that's diesel, electricity, gas, whatever that may be, and the various outputs of that. And we will be able to assess and model the effective volumes of CO2 being produced from that process. So we'll do that at each of the major component levels. We can also then use the technology to assess, air mile consumed and metrics that come from various other parts of the business and from their ERPs to be able to get a full picture of their carbon footprint.
And I think the exciting opportunity is, as David mentioned, the term cost. So how much did that cost us, or how much is that carbon valued at? It's the insights that come down the line. So once we've got this trusted view of the hydrocarbon life cycle, when we start analysing those data points and start asking the question, well, what should that carbon record be, or what could it be, sort of thing, I think that's going to be the next wave of insights we'll start to see from utilising these sorts of technologies.
I mean, the bottom line is, for us as a planet to actually move at pace on the energy transition and really deliver on that, fundamentally, we really do need to start understanding at all levels, as a consumer, as a business, B2B, at government levels, what is our carbon footprint? Because everything that we do, this glass, the water in it, the table, everything that we touch, use, move, has a cost of carbon. Historically, a lot of that we've got no line of sight of. It's somewhere down the supply chain. In many parts of the world, that's been offshored to another part of the world. So we really will start to see the governments and the regulatory frameworks start to really look and measure and cost carbon in a meaningful way. And for that to work, we really need to have solid, absolutely verified carbon metrics.
And ESG reporting is just so important just now. It really is. Do you think the efficiency and ability to monitor carbon is actually going to start affecting companies' values?
So a couple of things. One, it's not done very well today, generally, and most companies and most industries are really now only starting to build an understanding and a depth of capability to really measure efficiently their full carbon footprint. But to your point, this is becoming critical for companies and will become very mission critical for them, and their ability to attract capital, to get shareholders, to get investment, to be able to develop and grow their business. And as I pointed out earlier, they will need to be able to demonstrate to their customer what they're contributing to that customer's own energy, their own carbon footprint. So all the way down that supply chain, we will, as suppliers, be it services or products, will need to demonstrate the carbon cost for each step that we provide, or each service or solution that we provide. So increasingly in the years ahead, this will become very much a license to operate for companies.
Or even the months ahead, what we're seeing happening with the climate at the moment, there's going to be huge amounts of pressure on everyone to get better at what we're doing. So, I mean, for us, it's certainly what we've seen is that there's a bit of a carrot and a stick going on here. Our customers are very innovative companies. They want to be the first in their region to at least be attempting out on this journey and start gaining more insights and embracing better services and technology to be able to do that. It's a huge reputation for them, especially in places like the Middle East, we've seen. So some companies will wait until there's a stick, until there's regulation, and it'll be too late. There'll be heavy fines, there'll be less shares traded, we're starting to see huge innovation and reputational initiatives within companies to get on with this and get ahead and really start to drive this, as opposed to being told to license some technology for the sake of it.
I'd love to understand your businesses a little bit more. Databox sounds like it's got a huge amount of value to add, but what sort of footprint have you got as businesses? Tell me about your capability and capacity to roll this out across the industry.
So let me kick off with Vysus Group. So as I said in the intro, we're a company that's 2.5 years old as a name and a brand, but actually we're a business with decades of legacy. The business was built up over a number of years through the acquisition of a number of high-end consultancy businesses around the world, and those were brought together under Lloyd's Register. And in 2020, we spun out from that to create Vysus Group. Today, our business, we operate across the globe. We have operations in the Americas, from Canada to the US to Mexico to Trinidad. We're all through Europe, so the UK, the Scandinavian countries, Northern Europe, in Denmark, the Netherlands, we're in Spain, we're in the Middle East, we're in India, we're in KL in Malaysia. We have a large presence in Korea. We're in China and Beijing. And lastly, we have our operations in Australia out of our Melbourne office. So we are truly a global business. And importantly, we have a long history of working with industries, not only oil and gas, but right across the energy world and the complex process sectors. So oil and gas used to be the dominant part of our business, but we've had a long history of supporting nuclear, the renewables, both offshore and onshore, as well as complex process industries, so petrochemicals, pharmaceuticals, etc. One of the things that our business has done over the last couple of years is really helped our customers and shifted the focus of the sectors that we play into much more to the transition and renewables place. And we see that's important because, as we touched on earlier, the energy world is becoming much more integrated and complicated. So you're not simply having an oil and gas asset or a wind asset or a hydrogen. These things are going to be integrated. That means there's an integration of regulatory frameworks, of regulatory bodies, as well as the technologies needed to deliver the molecules, deliver the electrons. So our experience base across those different sectors, those different geographies, is helping our customers with a lot of these new transition-based technologies. And in the back of that, then, we're also really understanding, right, how do these systems work? What's the emission levels, and how can we help with efficiency and emissions reduction?
Great. So you're quite a global team. How many team members are there?
So today we are circa about 400 full-time staff across our global organization. And I'll say that's a team that are predominantly, PhDs and senior engineering individuals.
Some clever people. Yeah. Great.
Yeah, we also have a lot of clever technical people, different type of intelligence. We are obviously headquartered out of Edinburgh, as I mentioned. I call ourselves a scale-up technology company, obviously up in Aberdeen very frequently now. And down in London, we have operations down there, and we'll be expanding out into where our customers are in the Middle East, Houston and beyond. So really exciting times. We scaled from really anything. We go between 25 to 40 sort of people at the moment. Our business model is very much, as we've seen with the Databox application build, was enabling partners of all types to be able to spin up an application on Siccar, which then has those inherent data security principles in there. So our build model on top of the platform is rapid application development, which is what the world needs. People need to be seen, as I mentioned, time to value and getting insights from their data as soon as they can. So that's very much our business model. We are partnering with, as you'd imagine, all the gold-plated technology providers like Microsoft and AWS and Google Cloud. So we're a software as a service offering, gold certified with Microsoft to be able for all their partners to be able to go into the marketplace and download a node of Siccar and start to really build into applications. So the potential of that for us is huge, and we'll be investing mostly in partnerships, obviously like Vysus, who can bring the domain expertise and clevers of fixing big problems using our tech. And for us, we will be hiring quite extensively in the next 12 to 18 months around how do you make that process for customers easy to onboard, both the technology and the application and services. So that's where our focus is. The technology is 7 or 8 years in the making. It's very stable. It's enterprise ready. We will always iterate and innovate, and that's the next phase for us. As now we've moved, as you mentioned, our move into oil and gas. We are used in other industries. A very important use case to us of our technology currently is the green home retrofit. The social housing decarbonisation fund was recently their second tranche was released from Westminster to issue local councils and housing associations the ability to retrofit these social housing and make them safer. We've seen some really tragic stories recently of poor conditions and what that's led to. It's very close to our heart. So at the moment we are providing that backbone for these local authorities and housing associations to manage all the multiple contractors who might be able to exchange what is actually quite sensitive data, because of the way that we're digitalising housing now. You've got sensors in the home that show when someone might be in or not. You've got all sorts of data where you'd want that to be protected and secure and keep people safe and warm. So really the use cases and the potential for the Siccar platform are unlimited.
Great. And, Dom, you touched there on growth. And I know a lot of the audience for the podcast get in touch, and they're actually interested in careers and opportunities in the energy transition. So I'd love to know, what types of position do you foresee, or are you recruiting just now, and what types of position, what are the opportunities to get involved? What types of people do you think you're going to be recruiting?
Yeah, and we typically bring in very innovative people. We don't want to be hierarchical and structured and say you're pigeonholed into this role. We do run a graduate program at the moment that's been very successful, and give young people the opportunity to dabble in whatever they want. You really get some experience in sales, get into some tech and finance and partnerships and oil and gas, learn about the energy business. So we've been running that for a number of years, and the results have just been fascinating, how people come in what they thought might be an HR role or sales role and end up doing something else altogether. So we're very agile in that way in who we bring in, but it's been a really fun process, and the sort of interest we're getting and the sort of profiles that are now coming out of academia or university or otherwise. So yeah, that giving people the ability, I'd always say, is just be brave. Ask questions, challenge us, and find your place in the company, because it really is unlimited, the amount of roles that we can offer you.
Great. And David, tell me about Vysus.
So one thing, one of the reasons why we're really excited about the Databox solution, and critically the relationship with Siccar, is the partnership has been so fun to get to know one another, because I think there's a really close alignment in the cultures of the business. In Vysus, we have our 3 core values are trust, passion, and partnership. And it's about, being a trusted partner with a customer, but we're passionate about driving change and improvement, and, not just accepting the norm as being good enough. And it's constantly pushing and helping that. And we see that with the Siccar team, always wanting to innovate, always see how can we do it better? How can we do it faster? How can we do it more efficiently? So that passion is there for both of us, and it's really exciting as we bring the solution more broadly to market. in terms of our own business, we are constantly pulling in people. I mean, our website's got lots of open positions right across our global organization. It's really interesting the different perspective of, oil and gas to other energies. As I touched on, we used to be very much an oil and gas business. Today, that's the minority of what we do in our consulting business. And so we're able to offer really interesting, highly technical roles to engineers and to scientists to come in and be involved in some of the emerging technologies and really have some interesting problems to try and fix. So, and they get to do that not in just one sector or in one geography, but get involved in projects right around the world and emerging technologies. So it's really an interesting place.
I think why it works so well with the organisations is we're more like engineers than a tech company. Everyone's problem solving. They're all tech engineers in our company as well, and most of our backgrounds have come from that sort of thing. So, yeah, it was a very cultural fit, wasn't it?
Brilliant. I'd love to find out a little bit more about you individually. Can you each take me through your careers? How did you become Chief Executive of Siccar, Dom?
I'll try to do this as quickly as I can. So actually, I didn't start out in technology, and I didn't start out in energy markets. I was originally an economist, and headed down to London to the Big Smoke, where I ended up joining Anderson Consulting, which then became Accenture, on their strategy grad program, and it was all about risk. So I was modelling the risk around derivative products on the trading floor that obviously led us to what was the terrible subprime. It was nothing to do with me. I was actually, I was telling them there was a risk. I wasn't creating the derivatives. So that was fascinating. But with that sort of analytics experience and modelling experience, moved into big US tech firms over the years. Majority of my time was spent at SAS, which is the largest private software in the company, and they were the gorilla in the room when it came to the predictive analytics. So you could literally chuck terabytes of data at SAS, and it would give you certainly insights where other computes were failing. And SAS was predominantly in financial services and government, a little bit of healthcare, but it's a fraud framework. So, your Sarbanes, your Basel, all these regulations coming in, what's your credit score? And I saw a huge opportunity for oil and gas. I was living in Australia at the time, had my family in Australia, and got sponsorship from the owner of the company to start building predictive solutions for what I saw was just an amazing operating environment with such high risk but such high accuracy. And could we bring our technology to predict unplanned events? And we moved the business into and started that vertical, which was great. 10 years I was at SAS and I absolutely loved every minute of it, and then got pulled out of there by some friends at home to go and start up a company, to launch a Series A of the first blockchain company, pure play ever, listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange back in 2005, and we took that to just south of $500 million valuation. Oil and gas customers across the globe as well, doing quite similar things, reconciliation on the blockchain of things like vanilla gas trades, just to reduce cost and increase trust and security. Great fun, and that kind of brought me into the more distributed ledger and data security times, and took on this job. Just saw the possibility for this company. About 5-6 years ago, I joined the board of Siccar and recently came in to head it up when I started seeing the good things and all these possible partnerships we could have. So it's been an absolute blast, and I wouldn't have changed it for anything.
Great. David?
So I am an engineer, but I haven't engineered for many, many years. But I was an electrical engineer, but I quickly decided I wanted to be outside of sort of traditional engineering and went into the energy markets. First job was in Central Sudan doing wildcat seismic acquisition. I then went into the oilfield services sector and spent a number of years in Asia before coming back to the UK for the first time to run a really interesting business here in the UK. I've then ran operations in oilfield services and the engineering world, facilities world in various parts of the world in Africa. And I spent 4 or 5 years building what became quite a major business in the Middle East for a PLC before coming back to the UK for a few years. had 2 or 3 years running an IT services business out of London, which was an interesting journey. And I finally landed in my current role, the current organization, about 4 years ago. And it's been an incredible journey taking a business, a global business, being able to help reshape that, and then taking that out of a big or global organization to create a standalone company, and the challenges that creates in being a business and operating across such a wide geography, and really building a new brand, building a new business profile, a new culture, and driving transition. It's been a huge amount of fun. Incredibly proud of the team and the expertise, the smarts that I found in every part of that global organization has been fascinating, and it's been a great journey so far.
Great. As you've built your own careers and your companies, what's been the secret to your success, really? What do you look back and say, that's why I got here?
For me, it's people. Look, every business, regardless of what it does, how it delivers, how it achieves it, it has to be about the people, the team. And therefore, getting the right team dynamics, getting people aligned, getting people clear on where are we going, why do we want to go there, and how can we get there? What's the daily tactics? Every business has its bad day. Every job you could ever have will have good days and bad days. But as an organization, if you're able to give direction and move the business forward, then people are on that journey with you. So for me, it's all about people, building relationships, building the right team mix, getting the dynamic working, and having fun along the way. They say all jobs, all businesses have bad days, but you've got to have a little bit of fun with that. And it's that dynamic of the team that is so critical for that.
Yeah, my business walks out the door every day. That's the worry, isn't it? It's the people that make it up. And again, how we run as an organization around the opportunity to innovate and challenge and is really working. So definitely people, I'd also say certainly in the tech side of things is fail fast.
Yeah.
So you have to, I don't like the word pivot, but you have to certainly set out hypothesis that you're going to test and run in a matter of weeks or months as a really fast scale up business. That's the only way to scale and make the decisions and fail quickly and get on to the next thing and work it out. So I do see some of the challenges of tech startups where they set out with a certain mission to do a certain thing and it's not working and they don't adapt quick enough and they lose the opportunity. So we've always adapted quick, failed quick, found another way to go. I learned from it and evolved to where we are today. So
brilliant. So fail fast and look after your people. Good. What advice would you give to your younger self just embarking on your career?
Buy Apple shares.
Yeah. I like that one. I wish I'd done that too.
I've invested in Apple technology from day one. My first, going back all the way. So, and I've never bought Apple shares. And every time I think, no, it's too late. And then I realise it's wrong.
But seriously, when if you were to look back at yourself, looking at some of the opportunities that you've given and how you've looked at those opportunities, what advice would you give to you?
For me, I would absolutely knock my head and say, stop. Take the opportunity, just look around. I've had the privilege of living in various countries for a number of years in different parts in Asia, Japan, China, India, lots of places. And I was too busy doing the job and just living to actually stop and look around and just appreciate what was around us and getting to know. One of the things I really loved about the opportunity of living in countries was being there long enough to get to understand the local culture and to get to understand people. So that was really great. What I think I didn't do very well was spend enough time actually seeing the places, seeing the culture and getting out and just walking around a bit more. So that would be my advice. My younger self is stop, take time and absorb more and enjoy what's around you at the time.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to work in the businesses we do. That I've worked in America, Australia, London, all over Asia. So lived in Australia for 6 years. My children are Australian. And again, you do sometimes take it for granted that you're into another great company in an amazing part of the world. It's just been such a blast. I mean, my friends just don't understand what I do and how I get these opportunities. It really is a privilege to be able to do it. I think professionally, I'd probably speak to my younger self and say, don't hold back. Again, one of the huge benefits of what we do is you are exposed to very senior people within, or certainly in consulting, very senior people within organizations from year one of your career, which is terrifying, but also a huge opportunity. So I think I probably would have been a bit more forthright, and if you've got an idea and something that you think could be done better, say it. Write it up, present it, instead of waiting for instructions to be given. So,
and tell me, in your own businesses, how do you define success for the business?
So for me, there are 2 or 3 things. I mean, there's all the business stuff, but number one is about creating an organization that's clear on where it's going and it's successful in terms of its growing the business. We're able to create new solutions and help our customers. So scaling the business up, creating a value for us as a business, and that means generating profits and being commercially successful. But it is also about that innovation. How can we really help bring new solutions, help our customers through, what is the most significant challenge for us as a planet, and how do we become a low carbon world? Our businesses can help our customers right across the world, and we're really excited about being able to do that. So getting engaged and helping our customers is part of that.
All right, and Dom?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely echo that. Just be the change, I suppose I'd say. Can we, with what we're doing together and the technology, change the way that people and businesses interact with each other with information and data? Absolutely. To be the change.
Great. And how do you define success for yourself?
I always joke that I recruit to put myself out of a job, really. So every time we're bringing someone, they're just better and better and better, and it augments the team. So I need to be challenged to go out and find the next thing for the organisation. So for success for me is if I'm not getting hauled into the office in Edinburgh or down to London or out for operational things, and that I'm starting to think and innovate with the likes of David as to what's next, what can we do that's absolutely a change for both businesses in the market. So that for me will be heading into the next stage of what this partnership and both businesses are going to do.
Great. And David?
No, I absolutely echo that point. As I said earlier, it's about building teams and building capability, and succession planning and growing the next generation is really critical to that. I'm an absolute believer as well in pulling people up. You can get young junior individuals who have what appears to be limited experience, but you can stretch people really quite well, and that creates exciting opportunities for them. And also, to Dom's point, allows you to create the next layer, because every organization, whatever you are, whether you're a PLC, a private, whatever, needs to have a refresh of organizational leadership and of structure, because it keeps everybody fresh. And so constantly building that, looking for talent is a key part of any business and a leadership role.
Brilliant. And in each episode of the podcast, we ask our guests to set a question for our next guests without knowing who they're going to be. Now, in the last episode, we were out at the Kincardine Wind Farm with Flotation Energy. We had Kirstine Wood and Dan Wright. And Kirstine and Dan left this question for you. In terms of the energy transition and skills passporting, what skills are you looking for?
Interesting question. I mean, in terms of this, our skill set and our requirements are around the engineering, the regulatory framework, and the design level expertise. So we're looking for domain expertise in multiple areas, whether that's mechanical, materials, process, chemical, electrical, risk, a broad range of technical and regulatory skills. Our business doesn't deploy people typically out to do stuff on facilities. So from a passporting requirement, we've got a limited leverage on that. It's more about the breadth of technical skills that we have.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't really add much more than that. From the technical staff side of things, it's people who can embrace those sorts of huge business processes, but have the technical capability to juggle those things together. So that's the next stage for our company, whether it be a blueprint of secure processes that is then reusable and scales. And that's the people we'd be looking for. So
yeah, I mean, in our sort of business, there's a technical framework and a technical expertise and a domain knowledge, but actually the success is the passion and how you apply that knowledge and how you really get after it. And that's what, when we're looking for talent, when we're bringing people into our business, it's what's that spark? What's the passion that they have, as well as the technical.
Okay. I'm really privileged on the show that we get so many leaders from the energy transition joining us, including yourselves. It's been really interesting to find out more about Databox. And of course, you've got the opportunity to leave a question for my next guest. So
I will. We've discussed it, and I will let Dom land this one.
Yes, well...
Are you going to be kind or are you going to be cruel?
Being a tech, I wanted to try and bring some magic into it. So we would like to ask your next guest, if they had a time machine and could travel back any time in the last 50 years, what part of the global energy strategy would they change to help us where we are today?
Oh, interesting.
Yes, that makes sense?
Yep.
What an interesting aspect. We've not had a question like that before. I look forward to finding out the answers. So, very good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Murray.
So that brings us to the end of our recording today. I'd like to thank you both, David Clark from Vysus Group and Dominic McCann from Siccar, for joining us today. It's been really interesting to find out more about your companies and more about the Databox solution. As always, feedback on today's podcast and suggestions for who we should be featuring on Let's Talk Transition, ideas for questions, more than welcome. I'll let you get in touch through LinkedIn. That's great. Please keep on doing so. Or you can email me too. It's Murray, that's Moray, at anetconsulting.com. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks very much for watching.